Hi, this is Kim. Welcome to a weekly review of the markets, looking at the fundamentals and technicals of mainly the Forex markets here today. We will also look at the flash crash, of course. We can't ignore that sort of occurrence, so I'll talk about that a little bit as well. But for now, just a reminder that Charlie's doing a webinar this coming Thursday, 1900 hours UK time, so it's still British summer time, so 1900 hours. There will be a link on the end of the email for you to click if you want to join, if you haven't already joined it, or put your name down to join it. Okay, that's that. Now let's look at the euro dollar and a bit of analysis here, looking at this from a weekly picture. And as you can see, it's very difficult. Now I cheated a little bit here because the previous week I had the bar there, and I've possibly cheated because of where the bars come to. It's just that it closed back within the range, and I just dragged my trend line down a little bit here. But in reality, we've broken what was there, so I should go back to that and say, well, yep, we've broken, and we've got potential continuation. Now, if you look at the dailies here, it got all a bit oversold very quickly on Friday. Rallied up and wore that off because it's just not really got much in the way of range. So got oversold on a daily perspective, and the same day effectively it's no longer oversold. It's working from a very pinched area here, and my expectations on what we're seeing with the US dollar strength is that we'll see sort of a continue to the downside. It's the bias that I've got at the moment, mainly because we've broken the trend. Now, it obviously broke more than once last week, but the very fact that it can't hold up, it can't push up for now, as I say, urges me to the downside. The only thing that would change that is if we get a close above this daily 500 MA. If we get a close above that, well then it would be fool to ignore it. But at the moment, it's more erring towards the downside. However, there are points of support. My preference would be to see it break these prior lows from last month. If you can break these lows here, I'd be much more bearish and would look to see the sort of movement from this wedge that's there and see if it comes down towards the S2, maybe even to those lows, and possibly the S3, but certainly the S2 would be a point of where I'd be looking to try and trade towards. But yeah, erring towards the bearish side, and the main reason for that is whilst the Draghi, etc., speaking and saying the European economy is showing the right signs of growth, it looks like the US are growing quicker and more likely increase interest rates at the next meeting, or most likely the next one. And there's more and more signs of that, or the sounds of that coming out. So we could see a continuation to the downside for the euro. Onwards to the pound now. I'm going to come out to the much bigger picture. In fact, I'm going to just switch across for a moment and run to composite price. So it takes into account many brokers, and only because it shows me something I really need to do. Now, I did put the fibs on here, but I'm wary with fibs in terms of them. They're great for certain little strategies. They work pretty well, but the price is never direct into them because obviously, I say obviously, but there are so many places that you can put the highs and lows and etc. And everyone can disagree slightly. And I'm sure someone's looking at it and saying, no, you don't want to use that high. You want to use that high right the way back there. I've used the high I've used, and it seems to match with some others and the sort of figures they were looking for. They were expecting the pound to come down to this level. Well, there's chances are, from what I'm looking at here, it could come down quite a bit lower. Now, I like old-fashioned technical analysis, and when you look at horizontal support and potential support, we're sitting pretty close to where this 886 is. Okay, I like confluence even better. Now, that would be around about 200 points or so from where we are at the moment, 225 down. It's possible. It's not saying it will happen. It's possible, though, that we could see this over the next months, days, weeks, months, coming off into that sort of direction. We know there's a lot of risk on the pound, which leads me to the move that we saw on Friday. We saw the big move here. where it moved over 500 pips in 6% or something. It moved significant move down here to, well, 1962. Others saw it a little bit higher than this. I think this was a bit of a wide one because there's some brokers in here. But the thing is, just a very brief explanation. When the market does what it was doing there and going through, well, it can happen during a normal daytime, but when it happens through the Asian session, when there's less bigger traders around, there's less volumes going through the pound, it's quite easy for this sort of thing to start. As I showed with the traders in our trading room, throughout this day here, if you looked at the order book that was sitting here, there was there was some buy orders, admittedly, net buy orders at some points through there, but it was almost a red line going down there. There was an expectation. There was traders waiting with their positions to sell. Some of them may have been buy stops or sell stops even. Buy stops would have been the blue ones, of course, but the net feel for the market was bearish, and it just hit those. And when you're hitting those in a low volume market, the orders are running through, the algos are starting. It's not an unusual thing to see this happen. What we noticed, and it could occur more frequently, and I was listening to someone talking on TV over the weekend who shared an opinion that the markets, as there's the great unknown, and anything that sort of stirs the market at the wrong possible time could cause these. We saw it obviously with the Swiss situation, which caused quite a problem back last year. But we could see these little flash crashes more frequently, and it's something to be aware with, particularly with the pound dollar at the moment. Is the risk is certainly towards the downside. That doesn't mean to say I'm completely bearish on it. There are intraday trades to be had on the pound, and there are times when it's going to move down. But from a daily perspective, I've got to remain bearish. I was bearish as of Monday last week, and as late Monday, it had broken the lower trend there. In fact, let's just switch on to where the chart was. There you go. So it broke that lower trend on the Monday, and as I said on Monday evening when I recorded, I'm bearish on this market, and goodness, didn't expect to be quite as bearish as this, and would love to have claimed to have been in a short position at the time. But there we go. It's got oversold here now into where how I'm looking at it. There's also RSI Extreme. There's probably a lot of different indicators that people are using there, screaming out that this market's overdone for a little bit. But the risk is still, as I say, to me, to the downside. So as much as I'd like to be thinking, well, I've got an opportunity to get a crafty long here, I'll wait for some confirmation. And even then, if we start seeing it start stepping its way up, it's a bit like the dollar yen to me in terms of the risk is always that we could get a much quicker move straight down again. So for now, I have to remain bearish on cable, but intraday I'll take what's there. Dollar yen. Let's look at the bigger picture here. Dollar yen's been pushing up a little bit from a quarterly point. Let's just switch this to a weekly chart for a moment, and you can see what I really want to see. It's back to its 21. It's reacted off the 21 exponential moving average last week, and it's still trying to push up here. And my thoughts are, well, there is potential for it to break that at some point. If it does, it's a weekly pivot swing sitting there as well, which may see over the next week or so further upside. So if it can break that level, as I say, it becomes much more bullish. I don't say I necessarily want to be long all of the time, but it's in the short term, you can see that it's broken the short-term trends. It's sort of come out this wedge to the upside, which often on a wedge like this in a downward trend, you would expect continuation. But for now, as I said, the dollar's strong at the moment, and you just got to be playing in the hands of the dollar. It's strong, so it gives opportunities for the upside. Now, there may become a point where we see some quite sharp sell points, and when you see them, they certainly do come in and move a long way. But at the moment, to me, I'm erring bullish. Aussie dollar. Now, the Aussie dollar. What a mess. It's not really. It's just in a bit of a wedge pattern and unsure where it wants to go. It's put a bearish pivot swing in as of last week, so it's erring to me towards a bit more bearish downside. Certainly when you come down and look at the dailies in a moment, it looks bearish. But we've got to break the lows of that really to trigger. The thing which could easily happen here is pretty much like what's happening with the euro. The Aussies become a bit neutral in a sense. It may change quite quickly if we see some good fundamentals coming out of China, and it could soon turn all of that. But at the moment, to me, it's erring and looking. I'm looking at this almost expecting some break to the downside. And when you come and look at the dailies there, it's sort of okay. Yesterday, Friday ended up in a bit of a doji there, and it's holding on at the moment. Perhaps short term, if it breaks the highs of yesterday, today, tomorrow, it could be pushing up more, but we've got these lower highs in and lower lows at the moment. And to say, for me at the moment, I'm still erring to the downside, but really dependent on what happens here. If this, as I say, starts picking up, as I put the doji on Friday, breaks that high, maybe it could push up there. Just checking if I missed anything else. The other thing is if it does that, it then starts putting in a bit of a inverted head and shoulders pattern. So if it can push up like that, well, we may see those prior lows. There's a trend line running across there. We may see that trend line taken out. So let's just pop that one across the highs there. So it does run up there over the next day or two, 3 days, whatever. Maybe it pushes on beyond. So last month we were stuck around that pivot area, the R1. Perhaps it wants to run up to this month's pivot as well, the R1, which is a bit higher. Right, okay, Aussie dollar and finally the Canadian dollar. So I'm going to come out to the big picture, of course, look at what's going on here. It sort of doesn't make sense for me at the moment, but I can understand what's happening. From a weekly point of view, again, we pushed up quite strongly last week. But the thing that doesn't make quite so much sense is I'm going to switch this to an oil chart now. And oil was pushing up pretty strongly. Now it made, well, about $8 or so, $7 or $8 over the last 4 weeks. And we've seen no real significance of that in the Canadian dollar. We've not seen much of a pullback. Okay, it doubled over this point between the high and the low here. It doubled in price. Well, we've gone I suppose it's probably not that far off it in a sense, but it's moving in the wrong direction. It's moved upwards in that over that time, and it should be coming off. But as I say, that is really a sign of the dollar strength as much as anything else. So where to? Well, I'd like to see it start rolling over. I had last week drawn this little trend line down the lows here and was looking really for a break of that sort of area to give me a more positive short. I could still potentially look for shorts on the break of the 8 moving average there, but it is quite choppy. What I'm thinking is this market's continued to move up, oil's moved up, and at some point possibly we're going to get back into correlation. It's a bit out of correlation at the moment, but maybe we need to see something happen to the US dollar more significantly to create that. But it's certainly got some downside potential. Okay, that's pretty much it. Actually, I did look at the FTSE last week, so I will just pop the FTSE on here this week, and pretty much continued last week, pushing up through. The next day pushed up strongly, and then chopped around for the rest of the week there as the pound was didn't have quite such a reaction on Friday when the pound got really hammering. We could see if the pound's still dilly-dallying where it is and doesn't, we could still see the FTSE pushing up towards new highs again. So it's had the inverted head and shoulders there. That's pretty much worked its way off now. But there's, with a weak pound, there's potential to see the FTSE carrying on to the upside. Right, on that note, I will leave you. Hope you have a great week. Take care. Bye for now.